porch boards groaned beneath me as I stood, wind from the Pacific tearing at my jacket, while my father appeared where the gravel path bent. He held an envelope like an apology, trembling fingers, a promise wrapped in paper. $15,000, he called it, a chance to begin over. But money doesn't heal a deed written in someone else's hand. It doesn't bring back the softness of my mother's last breath. I pressed the brass key to my sternum, feeling its small, hard truth, and understood. He meant to rob me of what she left. The cabin clung to the cliff like a stubborn thing, pine weathered to silver where salt and storms had worn it raw. My mother had sewn its curtains, smoothed the driftwood shelves until they were almost gentle. When she died, I was 29, and the title came to me with a hush and a responsibility. For years I tended that house as if tending her, replacing broken shingles, scraping barnacles from the deck, polishing the oil lamp so it would still blaze through winter nights. It was the only place her laugh lived on. Victor was a different kind of man, a roaming storm. After she passed, he'd appear with the smell of cheap liquor in his clothes and a phone full of frantic texts begging for cash to drown another mistake. I wired him money, thinking it was charity. Each transfer was a bandage that cut deeper. At first, his presence at the cabin felt like an ache I could ignore. Then he started staying too long, fingers tracing my mother's sketches, as if trying to read them for a secret. My instinct tightened into action. I hid the original deed in a floorboard lockbox and wore the brass key as a talisman. Trust had been eroded. One night, my friend Caleb sent a message that tasted like warning. Overheard Victor bragging at the docks, claiming he'd sold the cabin and forged my signature as if it were a game. My world tilted. The man I'd helped had been plotting to take the only place where my mother still lived. I drove into Seaside at dawn and sat in a law office that smelled of paper and wood grain. Rachel listened without blinking as I spilled the whole mess. Victor's debts, his barroom boasts, the rumor Caleb had passed along. When she told me a transfer had been recorded at the county, my stomach dropped into my knees. If we didn't act, the cabin could be gone by Friday. She filed an alert, put legal snares in place, and we prepared a trust to secure the property. I signed the new documents with hands that shook, but a voice that did not, sealing something that felt like both victory and loss. I turned protector in other ways. Motion sensors whispered from the rafters, small, patient witnesses to anything untoward. 3 days later, Victor texted, oily with charm, inviting me out, a toast to new beginnings at a cliffside eatery. He wanted to celebrate freedom. He said, 15,000, a clean slate. I agreed with the key warm against my chest and a plan cold in my head. The restaurant glowed with lanterns, the ocean outside a black, moving thing. Victor raised his glass and launched into his practice performance. A son finally free of burdens, a father relieved. During dessert, Caleb's text flickered across my screen. Victor was meeting some buyer that night, a sketchy man from Newport. My pulse picked up a dangerous rhythm. Rachel had already dug through the buyer's trail and found a ghost account tied to Victor's old circle. The so-called sale was smoke. I sat through Victor's monologue and let him brag, the anger inside me coiling. When Rachel slipped in and joined us as if by chance, timing precise as a scalpel, his face shifted from smug to surprised. After the plates were cleared, she slid a manila folder across the table. We showed him the trust, properly filed and airtight. The forged transfer was useless. His buyer, a paper shell to cover gambling debts, dissolved under examination. His laughter died, and the bravado drained from him like color from paper. I watched him as understanding and fury warred on his face. He clawed through the pages with a useless desperation. "You can't do this," he rasped. But the county had a notice, and Rachel had the evidence. We made it plain, fraud, theft by deception. He could face charges, or he could begin making restitution and submit to counseling. The choice hung like thunder. He chose a small, slow path, regular payments from a dockhand's paycheck, required therapy, a legal barrier he could no longer leap. That night, I walked back across the porch I'd repaired, the sea silver by the moon. I hung my mother's title beside the trust documents, a quiet shrine to what I had fought for. The cabin stood, safer now, but the wound it bore a pulse with new ache, the loss of father who had chosen his appetites over his family. I locked the door and felt both victory and a cold question settle in my chest. Have I fortified a refuge or built walls that trap me as surely as anyone else?